What about this chap, Jim Henson?
Who? He seems to have his hand in a lot of things around here, but I don't particularly know what that means.
Hello there, my name is Jim Henson, and I'm a puppeteer.
I think it's certainly not a career that one would plan. I was interested in television, in films, in art, and actually then when I went into puppetry, I found that I could combine all of this stuff. I remember really being very enthusiastic over television. I sort of forced my parents into getting a television set, and that was back in about 52, 51, 52, 53, right in there. In order to work on television, I heard of a station that was looking for a puppet act, and so I made some puppets and went and immediately got a job on television. And that's, you know, and really I've been on the air almost ever since.
I'd like to introduce a couple of people now. Well, I don't know if I use the word people advisedly, but several years ago in Washington, D.C., there are two young college students, Jim Henson and Jane Nebel. They got together with some little puppets, and they formed what people in Washington now know as the Muppets.
I've grown accustomed to your looks, accustomed to your voice, accustomed to your
I was working down in Washington, D.C., and I did a local television show there for about 8 years when I first got started. And Kermit, I made probably about a year after I started working, and he was made from an old spring coat of my mother's, and a couple of ping pong balls.
Surely I could always be that way again, and yet I've grown accustomed to your love, accustomed to your voice, accustomed to your face.
That was the first piece we ever did on network television.
That was a lot, I think, with Steve Allen, wasn't it? Years ago?
On the show, The Tonight Show. Not the show. His version of it. And it was 18 years ago.
How do you come up with an idea like that?
Well, a piece like that...
What snaps in your mind?
It's kind of interesting because...
Something has to snap someday and say, let's eat them. You know.
No, a piece like that, it's just kind of a comedy piece. And I don't know exactly why it happened that way. But it's sort of interesting the way different people lay different meanings on it. You know? It has different interpretations.
What was the first character you ever came up with in the Muppets?
Well, that was Kermit that was in that
Frog,
one. And he's the oldest one that we're still using. He's gone through a number of reincarnations, and that's about the fifth or sixth one. We started off as a small little group, and at that point it was just my wife and I and Jerry Jewell. And when we came to New York, Frank Oz joined us. Frank was just a kid at the time.
The youngsters have been sending in loads of mail asking me when we plan to have the Muppets back on our show. Well, I don't know exactly, so here they are now. The Muppets!
We used to always, when I first started, and if we were running a piece of material, and we did sort of strange pieces back in those early days, and we had 2 standard endings. If we couldn't think of an ending, one character either ate the other one, or somebody blew up. If one of those things could happen, we had an ending.
What else do you do besides just puppets?
Well, I've been into filmmaking for a while. One of the tapes that I have here is a piece called Youth 68. It's a dance piece about the speed of technology. We had great fun combining film and videotape techniques. So this other piece is a piece we did, which was part of Experiment in Television, NBC's series, on Sunday afternoons, last couple of years.
Tell me more about the television part.
Well, there's very little else left to tell, except, of course, it will end happily.
Are you sure?
Of course, I can probably prove it to you. You see, this is the television medium. All this has been electronically recorded in advance anyway.
What?
Yes, if you'd like to see how it turns out, why, we can watch the last part of the show.
This is ridiculous. How can I see something that hasn't even happened yet?
Here's the picture now. This is just the last part of the program.
Hey, that's me in there.
Of course.
But I'm still in the cube.
Of course you're in the cube, but you're healthy and happy. See, you even got the girl in the end. The perfect storybook ending.
Wait! Wait, this is not a happy ending. I don't want this girl. Wait.
Well, we don't need the sound. If I were you, I'd be very pleased with that ending.
Hey, I hate this ending. I hate the whole thing. It's a nightmare.
This is the television medium. You can always turn it off.
Sunny day, sweeping up clouds away. On my way to where the air is sweet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street?
And when I first heard about it, I loved the idea of it. The whole idea of taking commercials, and they found that preschool kids were very attracted to commercials, and to take those techniques and apply them to a show like this. And at that time, we were doing a lot of commercials.
Okay, buddy, what do you think of caramel milk?
I never tasted it.
So, you know, it was sort of natural, I guess, for them to think about us in terms of puppets and commercials.
Once upon a time in the land of 8, there stood a castle very great, and 8 flags waved in the air, for the King of 8 had put them there.
I'm the King of 8, and I'm here to state that everything here has to total 8. The guards, for instance, by the gate, must always number exactly 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I remember when first bringing in a sketch of Big Bird, I had in mind that we would do this large, silly character who would be oversized, you know, a great big character, and would represent the child, you know, so that the character would make all the silly mistakes that children make, and yet a kid could look at it and therefore learn about himself. I remember presenting sketches for Oscar. The very first one we used on the street was orange in color, and we used that for a year. And I didn't like that, so we changed to the present color of green. And at that same time, we presented them with the Anything Muppets. The idea of having a few heads, blank heads, and changing the faces on them.
He's not embarrassed by this?
Yes, very much so.
You must feel silly having this done in front of people.
Yes, it usually doesn't happen this way. It's like, there. Hair. Oh.
You have no hair yet.
There we go.
I feel charming, oh so charming. It's alarming how charming I feel, and so pretty that I hardly can believe I'm real. See the pretty girl in that mirror there. What mirror where? Look at that attractive girl be. Which one, where, who? Such a pretty face, such a pretty dress, such a pretty smile, such a pretty me.
I've always loved this show. I've loved being a part of it from the very beginning. And it was something that during the 70s, I suppose, the whole country felt it was slightly in a depression, you know, and emotional type of depression. And when you were working for the preschool kids, like the 5s, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, you can't be depressed about that. I mean, you know, this is such a wonderful age, and it's this wonderful innocence that you're dealing with. So I love doing all of that for all of those years.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the light. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight.
It's time to put on makeup. It's time to dress up right. It's time to get things.
It was a very different show. The show had its own shape and form. We had a wonderful time doing it. You know, I think it was really 5 delicious years in my life, and certainly. But why the show worked as well as it did, it's hard to say. I certainly was always a very shy person. I was undoubtedly a great deal more comfortable with the puppet on stage and me not being seen. Certainly with Kermit, there are areas that come out from him that I wouldn't particularly do. He's a little more playful. He's a little less inhibited.
Gee, you know, I was born in the swamp. My roots are there, and I just wanted you and my other friends to see it. But we don't have to go back to the swamp. We can go back where you were born. The sty. You know, where your roots are. Where pigs eat swill and wallow in the mud. Remember that? Huh?
Remember this?
7, 6, 5.
So here we're taking all these characters that only exist from the waist up, and we're trying to fool the audience into thinking that they're living in a whole world and that there's a whole reality to the world. And so it's kind of a game that we play with the audience.
We want you, we want you, we want you as a new recruit. We want you, we want you, we want you as a new recruit.
Working you find leisure, search the world for treasure, learn science, technology.
Where can you begin to make your dreams all come true? On the land or on the sea? Where can you learn to fly, play in sports and swim, dive, study oceanography? Sign up for the big band or sit in the grandstand when your team and others meet.
In the Navy, yes, you can sail the 7 seas. In the Navy, yes, you can put your mind at ease. In the Navy, come on now, people, make a stand.
There's a whole lot of mechanics to it all. You know, just the idea of you have to learn how to put all of your performance into this hand, and just the mechanics of doing the lip sync, you know, it takes a long time before that's totally automatic, and it has to be totally automatic before you can relax and do a performance.
I got the horse right here. His name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy who says if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do.
Part of the desire was to create a whole new world, you know, to start all over and design everything. And then I think we also had worked with a number of techniques that we felt were not appropriate to the Muppets, and yet it would be fun to explore these things and to work with the foam latex and to work with a more realistic kind of mobility of the face and that sort of thing. What is exciting about this whole process is that I think we've come to the point where you can do almost anything in a film that you dream up. I think we've reached the point where you can do almost anything that you can conceive of. I think Fraggle Rock is one of the happiest shows that I've ever been a part of. We always wanted to do a series in which kids could see our world in a more positive light. In order to do this, we decided we needed to create a whole new world.
Hey, look, Bob! I got a Fraggle!
By seeing how the various groups in the world of Fraggle Rock learn to deal with their differences, perhaps we can learn a little bit about how to deal with ours. Part of the philosophy of Fraggle Rock, I think, is contained very nicely in a quote that I once heard. It goes, "We're not inheriting the world from our parents. We're borrowing it from our children."
It's not that easy being green.
I'd like to say just a word or two about television, if I may. You know, I made my first puppets because I wanted to work in TV. And at that time, I thought that these electronic pictures were really something very magical. I think it's a wonderful medium to work in. And I also think that we've barely begun to tap its potential. Of course, television is already one of the most powerful influences on our culture, but because it is so powerful, there's a great deal of responsibility that goes with that. And I think those of us who make programs, particularly for children, have to be aware of what we're putting out there. And I think this is what is fun for me and why I'm very grateful for this very special honor. So it makes my work, or rather my fun, so gratifying. So thank you all very much.
Well, it's nice to see a man get his just desserts.
Yeah, speaking of desserts, when do we eat?
It's not that easy being green. Having to spend each day the color of the leaves. When I think it could be so much nicer being red, yellow or gold, or something much more colorful like that.